Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session Guide to Penetration Testing Reconnaissance Tools and Techniques. This is the fourth and last session in our series with Rodney Gullatte. I am Renal Vicaria and I'll be your host for the day. If you have missed the first three sessions of this series, you can find the link to watch them shared in the chat section. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. Now, let's hear directly from our speaker, Rodney Gullatte, as he introduces himself and share insights on the topic Guide to Penetration Testing.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for that introduction. Hello, everybody, my friends all over the world, friends in India and Africa, and my new friends in Kinshasa, here in the United States and all over the world. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Rodney Gullatte, and we are at the final part of this four-part series on the Guide to Penetration Testing. So I appreciate you joining me. We are here talking about reconnaissance tools and techniques. This is the fun stuff. It's all fun, really. A little bit about me. I am a certified Chief Information Security Officer, honored to have been inducted into the 2023 Hall of Fame with the EC Council for that particular certification. So congratulations to all of my other fellow certified CISOs around the world who have been honored with this as well, and everybody who got this certification. It's not easy, but it is attainable. I am a certified ethical hacker and certified network defense architect. I really like how y'all did this new slide. I am the CEO of Firma IT Solutions. My company does penetration testing for corporations around the world, and business is good. It's going to get better as people start to wake up and understand the importance of penetration testing and the importance of being proactive, because being reactive in the face of a cyber attack can be really, really expensive. I am on the board of directors for the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, the cultural office of the Pikes Peak region, and the National Cybersecurity Center here in Colorado Springs. And I just got voted onto the board of the YMCA here in the Pikes Peak region, which is a real big honor. I also just got asked to be on the EC Council Global Advisory Board for CPNT certification. So if you don't have that one, go get it. We're going to be talking more about that later next year, wink, wink. And I am a husband of 20 years, my beautiful wife, father, 3 beautiful children, and a community leader. I just love my community. I do everything I can to use my profession to help my community in a lot of different places other than penetration testing. Matter of fact, I'm donating a penetration test to one of the organizations I serve on the board for, just to help them. Companies need this kind of information, and you'll find out that there's IT providers out there. They're not all bad, but some of them are just trying to collect a check. And when it comes to pen testing, we're able to expose those things and hold their feet to the fire and keep them accountable. And I'm gonna show you an example of what that looks like later on in the slides. But let's get to it. Today, we're gonna be talking about understanding the importance of reconnaissance and penetration testing. We're gonna do an overview of the most effective reconnaissance tools and techniques, step-by-step guidance on conducting passive and active reconnaissance, and best practices for analyzing gathered data and planning subsequent testing phases. So let's jump right into this. Why is this important? You need to understand a target. So reconnaissance provides essential information about the target's infrastructure, services, and technologies, ensuring a tailored and effective approach to the testing. We're identifying vulnerabilities. Early data gathering helps us uncover potential weak points, such as exposed ports, outdated software, or misconfigured systems. Reducing the noise. Proper reconnaissance enables us as testers to focus on specific high-level targets, high-value targets, rather than creating excessive network traffic that might alert security teams. I'll give you a little bit more on that when we talk about Nmap and about the speed at which you scan those networks. You don't want to scan too fast because you don't want to trigger anything watching the network for attacks. We're trying to gain context. Reconnaissance helps us as testers understand the business context of systems and data, allowing them to prioritize tests on assets that are most critical to the organization. We're trying to build attack vectors. So the reconnaissance lays the groundwork for crafting attack vectors by identifying relevant technologies, user behaviors, and systems dependencies. Enhancing social engineering, gathering information about employees, their roles, and communications. It significantly improves the success rate of social engineering attacks. We're really trying to avoid detection when we're doing recon. So with stealthy and precise recon techniques, us as penetration testers can avoid triggering security alarms and remain under the radar of defense systems. And what's interesting, all the pen tests that I've done, none of the IT departments have seen me running the pen tests. So I guess that should tell you something. I figured they should be able to see something, but none of them have ever seen me run the test. We're trying to map relationships, and Recon helps uncover relationships between systems, domains, third-party services, which may reveal hidden attack surfaces. We're trying to validate the scope, which ensures us as pen testers, we stay within the scope by identifying which systems or networks are part of the authorized test. And we're trying to save time and resources. So through good recon, this reduces trial and error during later penetration testing phases, leading to more efficient use of time and effort. By conducting malicious reconnaissance, us as pen testers can ensure that our strategies are well informed, effective, and aligned with the goals of the assessment. So you really have to understand the full scope of what you're about to attack before you attack it, so you can be more effective in your attack. When I say attack, I'm talking about an ethical attack, folks. Okay, always remember that we're ethical hackers here. So there's a couple types of reconnaissance. You got your active and your passive. With active, we are interacting with the system. With passive, we are not interacting with the system directly. We are using public resources. This is definitely the unseen type of collection of data. Open source intelligence, OSINT, is part of that, passive reconnaissance. So let's talk about the active stuff and some of the tools used in that area. Nmap. If you're in this class, you've probably heard of these tools already. This is a powerful network scanning tool for discovering hosts, open ports, and running services. An example of it is scanning open ports and services, finding diversions to identify potential entry points. You don't want to scan too fast. There's a speed switch for this. I usually keep it in the middle, so it's not too slow and takes forever, but not too fast so that it triggers any kind of defense systems looking for us. Shodan, shodan.io is the website. This one's pretty cool. It's a search engine for internet connected devices, exposing servers, webcams, routers, Internet of Things. It shows a bunch of stuff. If you want to play with it, you can go to Shodan.io and type in PlayStation in the search box and see all the kind of stuff that you get. It's good for locating public-facing systems or misconfigured devices of the target that you're going to be pen testing. OWASP, a mass. This one's pretty cool. Focuses on in-depth domain enumeration by discovering subdomains, IP addresses, and DNS configurations. An example would be mapping an organization's external DNS records. You can grab this program from GitHub. It's also part of the Kali Linux distribution, which they just came out with a new one not too long ago. So you should check that one out. A couple of the commands that you can use with OWASP Amass is Amass Intel. And this one collects intelligence on the target's organization. Amass Enum, E-N-U-M, like enumeration. It performs DNS enumeration and network mapping to populate these results in the database. So OWASP and Mass is pretty good tool for active recon. Our good friend Netcat. This is a versatile tool for banner grabbing, port scanning, and testing network connections. It also supports file transfer. An example of this will be, capturing information from open ports to identify running services. Outbound or inbound connections, TCP or UDP to and from any ports. It's got full DNS forward, reverse checking with appropriate warnings, of course. The ability to use any local source port. It's got an ability to use any locally configured network source address, which is nice. So you can't tell where it's coming from. It's got built-in port scanning capabilities with randomization. So if you're scanning all 65,000 some odd TCP ports, you'll probably trigger something if you're scanning them in order. But if you scan them out of order, just randomly at a safe speed, it'll be hard to detect these things. So check out Netcat. Then you have the Burp Suite. Burp Suite's pretty cool. This one's really popular for like web application testing. Sometimes you get those requests. You're not just doing like an external pen test on public IP addresses for an organization and then doing an internal pen test of an internal network of an organization. Somebody will come to you and say, hey, we have this web app that we want you to pen test. And Burp Suite's a really good tool for that. I know that there's a version of it that's like $500 a year. There's a free community version. There's another version in front of that, but it gives you some detailed inspection of HTTP traffic. For example, extracting hidden form fields or endpoints by analyzing request and response pairs. So I like Burp Suite. It's pretty cool. My favorite tool, and I do classify this as active because I'm having to interact with somebody to do it, is a conversation. My friends, as an ethical hacker, your best tool is on both sides of your head, right? You have two ears and one mouth for a reason, okay? You should listen twice as much as you talk, all right? If you ask your target a question, just let them talk. If you let them talk long enough, they'll give you all the answers that you need. I have an upcoming penetration test that I'm actually about to run on the client. Let me give you some context behind this. It's a very important organization. It's national here in the United States. And they are paying for IT support. I want to make sure you understand that. They are paying money for an IT company to manage their stuff and protect them, okay? This is going to be the jaw-dropping moment when I show you this next slide. In their contract, which I really encourage all of you to help your friends and your clients read, you have to read those contracts. Companies put language in contracts that may sometimes be not to your benefit, but for theirs, and leave you exposed. One of the things in this contract, it says that the IT company is not responsible for any changes made to the network that are not done by the IT company, which is normal, but it also has some parentheses to include hackers, right? So they're just like, we're not responsible if you get hacked. What kind of effort are you going to put in to protecting this organization if you're not going to be responsible for the hack as an IT company? So that was tricky. I also asked the IT company when I was learning about the network, tell me about your firewall. Tell me the last time you updated the firmware. Tell me if you've got the services turned on to protect the network. Because in a lot of these firewall devices, there's a subscription fee that you have to pay unless you're using open source stuff for all the extra services that you get to turn on inside your firewall. We're not just firewalling these days. You got intrusion prevention, intrusion detection. You've got antivirus that runs at the network level. So there's a lot of different services there. So they write me back and they tell me that the firmware is slightly out of date, but they have checked, and there are no vulnerabilities between the last time the firmware was updated and now. So I was like, that's very interesting. So I talked to the client. I find out what the IP address is of the gateway. 192.168.1.254. It's a residential kind of personal network scope, which isn't, against the rules, but, I found it out looking at the stack, and, let me go ahead. Testing. Now you can hear me. I don't know where I lost you. Hope I didn't lose you. Too bad. I had a lot of stuff I was telling you. Anyway, let's take a look at what this looked like. So they're using a sonic wall, and the IT support told me that the firmware was only slightly out of date. So I'm looking at the firmware version on the left side, Sonic OS 7.0, 1-5145. So I go to Google, then I look up that version. That version is from November 2023. But according to the IT support that they're paying, it's only slightly out of date. There's been 2 firmware updates since this version was released. And every time there's a firmware version released, there's a lot of vulnerabilities that the firmware is addressing. And none of those are addressed. So the list is long as far as how many vulnerabilities are present on this particular firewall configuration. But that's only part of the good part. The other piece is, the services section. So if you look at services in the center on the bottom, you see a checkbox in licensed. So somebody's paying for the licensing to turn these services on, but underneath license, what do you see? Everything is turned off. It's all turned off. It's crazy. So there's a lot of companies out here right now paying IT support to manage their firewalls, and all the services are turned off. The antivirus is off. The anti-spyware is off. The intrusion prevention and detection is off. The botnet filter is off. I mean, everything's off. The content filtering says it's on, but I did not dig deep into it to even see if the content filtering, like sub categories, are even enabled. I saw enough with the firmware being out of date and all these major security services being offline. And like I said, this is an organization here in the US that's national, that is paying for IT support to take care of them. So this is bad, and you'd be surprised how many companies are out there with this issue. But that's why we're here. That's why we as certified ethical hackers are here. And this is part of the conversation being used in active reconnaissance. I'm not hacking anything at this point. I'm just logging in and looking at stuff. So this is what we're here to uncover. This is what's out there, folks. Pretty bad, ain't it? So let's talk about some of these passive reconnaissance tools. Google dorking. A lot of people just use Google to just look for queries, but you can be a lot more precise and advanced with your queries. If I want to look through a website and just find the PDFs that they have exposed publicly on the web, there's a way I can search for those. Site : example.com, file type : PDF. And it'll show me all the PDFs that are exposed on this particular website. So, it's using advanced search operators to uncover sensitive files, configurations, or exposed systems. The Harvester. This is an open source tool for collecting email addresses, subdomains, and host names from public sources. So if I'm trying to gather email addresses for crafting targeted phishing attacks, this is my go-to, the Harvester. Maltego. This one's about 5,000 euros. If you want to use the pro version, they have a community version that's a little more limited, but it's a really cool graphical tool for data mining and mapping relationships between entities like domains, people, and IPs. It's very thorough. Like law enforcement likes to use Maltego. So if you're just don't do anything bad because they're going to use this to try to find you, but it's very good for you to use for passive reconnaissance to see what your target's got going on. Recon NG. So this one is a modular reconnaissance framework that automates OSINT data collection. Think of it like a Metasploit, but for recon, right? This does not give you any exploitative resources. Like I said, it's just for recon. Automating who-is lookups and social media account discovery, like, you know, stuff like that is all part of the Recon NG. And then social media mining, investigating target employees and organizations on platforms like LinkedIn, X, GitHub, or Facebook, or, you know, TikTok, like just using social media to find things about people. My wife's really good at that. You know, she can look at it in a way where she can tell who is friends with who, you know, who says they're not friends with a person, and then like find out that they actually are friends, or who's connected to who, like she's, and who's at what event, you know, who's out of town at a certain time, you know, what organization does this person work for, what kind of new accomplishments this person's had. Like she's really good at that stuff. For us as ethical hackers, we're going to be combining these active and passive reconnaissance tools to paint our picture before we run our pen tests on the client. And there's a lot of other tools out there that we can go into, but I don't have all day for a class with this, so I only gave you some of the ones that I use, and they're good. So if you have some other ones that you use, you know, Kali Linux got some great ones, use those. But like I said before, you know, your 2 ears and 1 mouth, use your ears, just listen, you know, ask a question, go to an event at a company that you're going to be pen testing, and just listen to what people are saying. Are people saying things that they shouldn't be saying out loud, that you're just in the room listening to? You know, write those things down, use those in your reports, use those as ways to exploit them ethically for the pen test. We are ethical hackers, or you're an aspiring ethical hacker. I am a certified ethical hacker. So get your certification. CEH version 13 with AI is out right now. This is the one you want to try to grab. And you can pass it. Believe in yourself. I know it may be scary. I'll tell you, this was the scariest cert I ever took. You know, I've got over a dozen of these, and you know, none of them intimidated me more than the CEH. And I taught it at a community college. You know, I took the exams, the practice tests, and I was good. But you know, you have to make a personal investment to take this exam. For me, it came out of my own pocket. For some of you, your employer may end up paying for you to attempt this exam. And I was very proud of myself when I passed it on the first go. So just believe in yourself. You can do it. AI is not the future. It's here right now. It's been here. It's already making decisions for us that it probably shouldn't be making, but it is anyway. You know, stay ahead of it. Stay aware of it. For people who are not in this profession, help them understand it. I think the most important thing about getting these certifications is your ability to break this information down to people who are not in our profession so they can understand it, so they can understand the threat, they can understand how to protect themselves. A lot of us in this profession talk better with machines than with people. Your golden skill set is not just to get this certification, but to be able to talk to people who are not in this field about this knowledge and help them understand it. That's going to be your best asset, is being able to communicate effectively something this complicated to somebody that is not part of this field. So get the certification. It's going to help you out. Trust me on this. It's going to change your life. It has changed mine. And I appreciate the EC Council for putting this together and always making sure that they are at the bleeding edge of technology and knowledge. Thank you so much. This is your man, Rodney Gullatte, certified ethical hacker, CISO, CNDA, CEO of Firma IT Solutions. Thank you so much. We are ready for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Rodney, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. We found the webinar very engaging and hope it was valuable for you as well. So before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council's CEH program. EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker certification is mapped to a variety of roles in the cybersecurity industry, including ethical hacker, security analyst, security consultant, site administrator, and network management executive. LinkedIn 2022 lists over 1,000 jobs seeking ethical hacking skills worldwide, and individuals holding the CEH certification can earn an average salary of USD 96,000 in the United States. If you are interested in learning more, please participate in the poll being conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training and we will reach out to you soon. So meanwhile, Rodney, should we proceed with the question and answers?
Let's do it. What's on the people's
So
mind today?
yes, so the first question is, how do we balance the use of AI in reconnaissance tools and techniques when conducting pen testing?
Um, since this is all like bleeding edge technology, and just like any other use of AI, make sure you're using your own critical thinking and your own manual recon to balance and find the truth between what AI is coming back with and what you're able to come back with. I wouldn't 100% rely on AI for everything yet. For example, I have a friend who teaches in the university, and he lets his students use ChatGPT for writing papers. And he told me that the A students um, still write A papers with ChatGPT, and the C students still write C papers with ChatGPT. So it's garbage in, garbage out. So it's going to take you have to control the balance. So I totally advise that you go ahead and use some AI tools, but also use your manual tools as well, um, and, and look at both of your results as you get ready to go into your pen test for your recon. Hope that answered your question.
Okay, so our next question is, how good is the Rapid7 Insight VM tool? Can you share more details about roadmap to start a career in wrapped cybersecurity from network security?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How good is the Rapid7 Insight VM tool? Can you share more details about the roadmap to start a career in wrapped security from network security?
You said Insight VM tool.
Yes.
Okay, that's from Rapid7. Um, anything from Rapid7 is outstanding, so please keep using those tools. Um, just make sure that you're charging appropriately for your pen testing, because a lot of those tools aren't free. Some of the other tools in the question I didn't pick up, but as I
Uh,
said in um, the presentation, the tools that I gave you are just a small, it's just a small subset of all the tools that are available for you to use in reconnaissance. Um, the more that you use, the more time it'll take. So, like I said before, we're trying to be efficient with our time. A lot more of the manual pen testing methods that take a lot more time, those pen tests cost a lot more. So just make sure you're charging appropriately if you're going to really be getting your hands dirty in real time, like using all these tools, especially the ones you were talking about in that question. I just want to make sure you get paid appropriately. Um, there's automated pen test tool systems that you may be able to charge less for because it's doing a lot of the work for you, which is a lot of the AI tools fit into that category also. But the manual ones just make sure that you're getting compensated appropriately for all the time that you're taking with those manual tools. But they're all great tools. There's really no bad um, recon tools. If it's helping you gain information and intel on your client target, it's a good tool to use.
Thank you, Rodney.
You're welcome.
Our next question for you is, for small and mid-sized organizations who don't have significant information security budget, what tools they must have to ensure security and what best practices they can follow?
So for pen testing, at least for my company, if they don't have outsourced or internal IT departments, they're not. I don't mention pen testing to them. If they're a company that's so small that like the CEO or the front desk manager is the one doing all the IT, um, I could tell you right now they're already exposed. The best thing for them is to educate. And there's a lot of organizations, at least I know here in the States, and I'm pretty sure that's the way it is around the world. There's organizations that will teach you basic cyber hygiene, um, that will tell you about password managers, that will tell you about, how to have different passwords for every online account that you have, to always have two-factor authentication turned on, to always, if you're using Microsoft Windows, to be using the Pro version so you can enable BitLocker and encrypt your hard drives. Um, never poke holes in your firewall for remote access. Just use a VPN every time. Uh, and as your business levels up and gets more money, then you can outsource things that you don't need to do yourself, that you can't do very well. You outsource your financials. You outsource your janitorial. You outsource your IT. Um, I think when you get to the point where you're outsourcing your IT, make sure that they are certified. Okay, make sure you read the contracts. If you have somebody calling themselves a cybersecurity company, make sure they have a cybersecurity cert. Ask them, do you have a certified ethical hacker on staff? So when you shop for these services, it's important for the business owners to know what they're shopping for. You want somebody with certifications and knowledge in this field and a signed contract before you give them complete control of your network and your business. There's a lot of companies not doing that. So, knowledge is power when you don't have money. So get as much knowledge as you can and pass it around the office.
Thank you, Rodney. Our
You're
next
welcome.
question is, how can the Recon Active can scan without being detected by the target?
How can you do an active scan without being detected by the target?
Yes.
Um, with some of the network mapping, like the speed, some of them have speed controls when it's doing the scanning. So just find like a middle for the speed of the scan. Like Nmap has like a speed, like use um, the middle speed, and it usually doesn't get detected. Like I'm telling you, like I've done these all year, and none of the IT departments have been able to detect my scans, or any of the exploits that I've been running on the network, like the hammering of their password systems. Like they don't see it. And I do 25 hits for each account for the passwords, but it runs at a speed where it's not going to lock out and it's not going to trigger, and it has a trigger. So just take your time, be patient when you're doing your pen testing. You'd be surprised how many of your pen tests won't trigger any alarms. And that's why we do these pen tests. That's why the IT departments for these companies shouldn't be doing their own pen testing. It should be outsourced uh, by a third party so that they don't fudge the results. So it's definitely, it's not an impossible thing not to be seen doing your pen testing on a network. So I think 9 times out of 10 you won't be seen when you're doing a pen test.
Thank you, Rodney.
Welcome.
Your next question is: the reconnaissance being the first step and somewhat the one we often return to during a pen test, where what would be a good methodology and organization to document information during the assessment?
Um, so details matter. Um, put the date and time that you're running each recon tool. Some of these keep databases of information. Um, keep that database file. Um, some of these give graphical outputs. Save those graphical outputs. Take pictures of them. Save the files. Um, when you're giving your reports, there's going to be like, at least for me, I have a technical report that I give, and that has all that technical detail that I want to see in Recon. Your C-suite executives and your high-level leadership don't want to see a technical, so you don't need to share all that with them, but you definitely want to keep as much detail as possible because you want to show how thorough your Recon was and what everything that you were able to find, and what time you found it, um, and keep that information. So just be thorough, keep all that information, and turn that in at the end when you give your reports. Uh, but just understand that that report's not for everybody. It's usually for your technical team, your IT support that you're giving over the technical information for. But keep the details. Details are good.
Thank you, Rodney. Our next question is: what are the best tools in today's world to get a better result when carrying out penetration testing?
Um, the best tools, uh, if you download Kali Linux, um, there's a lot of great tools in there. Uh, every single one of those tools are great for carrying out penetration testing, and the list is long. You're not going to use all of them because it will take too long. So, find ones that you like and use those. Uh, you being able to uncover vulnerabilities and being able to exploit systems with the tools that you're using, like you're already getting results. So let's say you have like 5 tools that you like to use and they consistently get results when you run them as an attack on a target. Just use those 5 tools. Use those 5 tools every single time, and get to know those tools. I find that using a subset of tools a whole bunch of times, you get good at using that subset of tools that you use. So build your own mix, like mixing drinks. Everybody has their own cocktail that they like, and they have their own different way of, my favorite drink is an old fashioned, right? And there's so many different ways to make an old fashioned: bourbon with whiskey, with a cherry, or orange, smoked, not smoked. They're all good, um, but it's your own personal touch. So, there's no wrong way to use a tool set to conduct pen testing. Find out what works for you and use those, and just make sure that your reports are thorough and on point, because that's your deliverable. The pen testing and all that stuff is for you, but the reports are for the client, and that's what they need to see. And they need to see what you're able to get into and what you're able to exploit, and how they can fix them. It's not your responsibility to fix them, but you should give them recommendations on how not to get compromised by the things that you found.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is: can you provide some open source alternatives for popular tools along with their pros and cons?
Um, can we do a handout for that? That's a long answer. That's a long one. You know, um, a lot of you have been hitting me up on LinkedIn, asking me questions after these sessions. And that's a good one to hit me up on LinkedIn for. You got my name here on the screen. Um, just shoot me a connection request like, hey, I'm the one to ask that question. If you don't get your question asked on this live session right now, feel free to ask me offline on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to provide those answers and that guidance, because a lot of you are students of the profession, and trying to get better understanding of how to do these penetration tests, and I want to be a resource for you. So that's a long one. So whoever asked that question, find me on LinkedIn. I'll help you answer that
Okay, sure, Rodney. We'll take the next question. What is the speed or the query you used while doing a pen test without triggering the alarms?
one. I use T3 for Nmap, um, and that seems to be the fastest speed at which I've been able to go that doesn't trigger anything.
Our next question to you is how to get into ethical hacking from software developer? What could you suggest apart from CES certification?
CPNT certification. Oh, that's a good one. That's from EC Council. Um, so check that one out too. Uh, you know, and you being a software developer is good because you pay attention to detail, and you being able to see code and read code is an asset for you. Those of you who are good at math, that's an asset for you. Those of you who are musicians and artists, graphic design, dancers, musicians, that's a good skill set. So it's not all about certification, it's about how your mind works. So if you understand music and arts, like you understand a world outside of a predefined box, and that's where all the hacking happens. People who are just studying what's in the box, um, those are the ones that get compromised. And another thing our gracious host had said before was about how much money um, uh, you could potentially make in this profession. Don't do this for money. Please don't do this for the money. Um, Whatever you're good at, whatever you love, whatever your passion is, you're going to make money at it because you're going to study it all the time. It's never going to feel like work to you. Um, So, if you really have a passion for this and you could do this all the time and not get paid, that's the kind of effort that you're going to need to be great at this profession. So if you love it, you can work at that level. If you're just doing this for the money, like it's gonna be painful for you. Um, so just follow your passion and get that CPNT certification also. Everything that the hacking forensic um, certification from EC Council. Like there's so many that they have here. Like just get them all, and you'll be surprised where your career will take you when you just start checking off those certs and understanding the methodologies and understanding the concepts and being able to practice them at work or practice them for your own business. Um, Being worthy and well qualified is important in this profession. So just keep learning, my friend. Stay encouraged.
Thank you so much, Rodney.
You're welcome.
Our next question is if you use cloud to store data and services, will the cloud service provider will provide the cybersecurity?
Yes and no. So I do get this one a lot. Some of my objections to pen testing, people will say, "Oh, well, we got our stuff in the cloud, Rodney. We don't need no pen test on our network." So I actually have this happening right now, and he's a really high level cybersecurity person with a PhD, and I'm not going to argue with the person, but it's a nonprofit that can't afford to pay for a pen test, and he is doing their IT for like $1,000 a year. So it's pretty much free. Um, so I offered a pen test, and he wrote back and said, I don't think it's necessary. He actually discouraged the executive director from allowing me to run a pen test on this network, which I thought was odd. But one of his points was, they use the Microsoft cloud, so they don't have data on their computers. So a couple things about that. One, um, in my experience, clients never put all their information in the cloud. They always have information on their computer, almost every time. So, there's a chance for risk with that. Also, as a hacker, if I get into your network and I compromise your computer, now I own your cloud once I'm in your computer. Your username and password, I'm gonna get it. Every time you type it in, I'm gonna have it. Okay, so you got two-factor authentication. You get a little code. That's fine. Once you're in, I'm going to capture that session cookie, right? So I'll be able to get in as you. You won't even know it's another account. I'll be able to get in as you on your computer. So when you go into the security logs for Microsoft 365, it's not going to show um, some foreign country IP address. It's going to show your own office IP address. It's going to look like a regular authorized access to the account when it's not authorized access. So there's definitely a risk still when using the cloud, because if I own your computer, I own your cloud. So you still have to be careful, and there's still a good reason to get pen testing done, even if you have a lot of your operations at the cloud, because you're in an office, right, on a network, right, accessing your cloud with computers. So those computers and that network are exposed. They're vectors. Um, so I hope that answered your question. That was a really good question. I deal with that a lot.
Thank you, Rodney. Our
You're welcome.
next question is, how much time one has to spend daily on practicing for certification as a working professional?
You know, that's a good question too. I am. Hold on, my kids are going to school and about to set off the alarm in the house. Just a second. All right, cool. I'm a gamer, and some of my favorite games are Call of Duty. I like Fortnite. The new Marvel Rivals just came out. Been getting pretty proficient with that. The amount of time you spend doing something, you're gonna get good at. So, if you spend an hour a day studying uh, your profession in cyber, that's the speed at which you're gonna get better, is an hour a day. Now, you've seen people play games for like 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. I don't get on that much, but like when I was young, I played a lot. Um, and you get good because you get rid of all distractions, you put your headphones on, and you are completely focused on your gaming, or you're completely focused on your music, or you're completely focused on your woodworking. So the more time you put into it, the better you're going to get. So that answer is up to you. How much time are you willing to spend to advance yourself in your profession? Um, you know, how many videos are you going to watch? How many certs are you going to get? How much time are you going to spend hacking the box? Are you going to build a lab in your house? Um, so it's all about your effort. And one of the things I know about me, like you're not going to outwork me. And the only person you are competing with is yourself. So you're not trying to compete with me. You're not trying to be the next Rodney or the next, whoever else you look up to in this profession. Be the next you. Be the best you that you can be, um, and challenge yourself to do better. And before you know it, like just focus on the excellence, and the money will follow. All your opportunities will follow. Just focus on being the best. Um, so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Rodney. We will be
You're welcome.
taking the last question for today.
Okay.
So, our last question is, for how for a large corporate can build its own pen test team and be carrying the test? That team should ideally be placed under which team?
Um, so it depends on what your org chart looks like, your organizational chart. Um, some companies just have an IT department that encompasses everything. Some of them break it out into IT, which is more the maintenance piece, and like a security, information assurance, or a cybersecurity department that handles cyber. As far as doing your own pen testing as a company, that's great. Um, but you should still, at least once a year, hire a company that's outside your organization to do the pen test. And this is not a decision that is made by the IT department. This is the decision that's made by either the board of directors or the C-suite. Um, the only job for the IT department or the cyber department is to comply with the request from your external pen testing company, and give them the information they need to run the test on you. It's the best practice is to have this done by a third party. You could totally do this as your own company and do it to yourself. There's nothing unethical about that. But you run the risk of, um, you know, people not being honest. Like I just showed you the picture of the company. The IT company is supposed to be managing the firewall. If I don't know anything about IT, which my client didn't, and they asked their IT, "Hey, how's my firewall?" "Oh, well, it's only slightly out of date, and it doesn't have any vulnerabilities." You're like, "Okay, IT person, I believe you. You know better than that." Some of them don't know better than that. So then when I come in and I find all the glaring issues, that's when the truth comes out. So that's why it's important to have a third party do your pen testing. Um, some people aren't honest, and it's okay to trust, but you need to verify these days because the risk of things going sideways is great. The ransomware is not slowing down. The cyber attacks are just increasing, and these hackers are savages. They don't care. They'll destroy whatever to get your data and your money. Um, so we have to be ahead of that threat. And that's why we are the warriors. We are the ethical hackers that protect these organizations, these businesses, and people from these attacks. So, um, just help them understand that they need to get these done by external companies, and that's the best practice to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you to our wonderful speaker, Rodney, for answering all those questions and for the great presentation and the knowledge shared with
You're
our
welcome.
global audience. It
You're
was
welcome.
a pleasure to have you with us, and we're looking for more sessions with you in 2025. Before we conclude the webinar, Rodney, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Um, stay encouraged, my friends. Anything worth having is hard, but the work is worth putting in. Protect as many people as you can. Thank you for being part of this profession. Thank you for supporting me in these 4 sessions. EC Council, thank you so much for being so kind to me and giving me this platform to speak. If any of you are looking for penetration testing getting done, give me a holler. You see me on LinkedIn, just keep sending me invites, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.